This program has been made possible in part by the following sponsors. The Trial Lawyers Association of BC. The Vancouver Courier newspaper. My new book about addictions, All the Way Home, Building Recovery That Works. In a few moments, it takes me to introduce you to our 122nd episode of the David Berner Show here on Shaw. Your Canadian government will have asked your local telecom provider for about 1.3 million bits of information about your personal life and mine. What is this? East Berlin in the 70s? That's very peculiar. David Christopher is the communications manager for OPENMEDIA.CA, and maybe he can enlighten us on these issues of privacy. It's a tricky one, isn't it, David, in such a complex world?
Absolutely. The whole issue, I think, of online spying is becoming more and more of a concern for people, not just here in Canada, but right across the world.
So explain first, what is the thing that everybody has been sending us all in the last few days saying, I'm now required to get your permission to send you stuff? What's all that about?
Absolutely. This is about a tool that OPENMEDIA.CA launched a few weeks ago, and it aims to make it much simpler for Canadians to learn more about the information that their telecom provider is collecting about them.
Yes.
Every Canadian actually has a right to learn this information under Canadian privacy law, but until recently it was quite a complicated process. It required drafting up a legal letter, making sure the wording was kind of watertight,
yes,
that your telecom provider had to respond. So we created an easy-to-use tool at openmedia.ca/myinfo. You just go there, you put in some basic information like your account details, your name and address.
Yes.
And it creates a letter for you that you can then send to your telecom provider, and they're legally obliged to get back to you within 30 days with a response.
I didn't know that, but I was actually asking you about something entirely different. I was asking you about how, for example, a real estate guy that I know and like in Victoria sends me updates. And he is one of 20 people in the last 2 weeks who has sent me a note saying, I need your permission to keep sending you these things.
Yes, I think you're referring to the Canadian anti-spam
There
legislation.
you go. Yeah, what is that?
Just came into effect there
can't
on
eat ham?
Canada Day.
This was launched by Jews. We can't eat ham.
It's a fairly significant piece of legislation. It aims to cut down just on the amount of spam, commercial spam email that people are receiving. You know, most people, when they check their email each morning, there are many, many messages sitting in your inbox, often from companies that you may never even have heard of, that you may have done business with once or twice in the past, many years ago, and they're still sending you these commercial emails. So the aim of this legislation is to make sure that people consent to receiving commercial emails from businesses. It's got a lot of businesses have been sending out messages asking for this informed consent to be given, and hopefully this will do something to tackle Canada's spam problem.
But it's going to put a huge dent in the way internet marketers like to work, isn't it? Because that's one of the things they do.
Absolutely, yeah. It's core to internet marketing, but I think you'll really see over the months ahead that the legitimate marketers will be able to handle this, where there's genuinely an audience where people genuinely want to receive commercial email with special offers and that sort of thing. They'll still be able to do so. They'll simply have to opt in. So it's a way of actually empowering Canadians to make informed choices about the kind of commercial email they want to receive.
There's a lot of fine lines here. For example, I just noticed that the book companies like Amazon, anything.com.ca.uk, and bookdepository.co.uk, which I like because they don't charge delivery costs. They all now have this feature that I'm sure they all bought from one genius provider. If I look up how green was my valley or whatever, all of a sudden there's 15 other things popping up that I didn't ask for that are related to this book.
Absolutely.
And I spend half my life now, if I'm looking for a book, clicking, get out of here, get out of here, get out of here.
Oh, yes, it's remarkable how sophisticated the systems are now on websites like Amazon.com.
And now, David, what is spookier is these things are showing up even when I'm not on their sites.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing. This amount of information that can get collected about you just in the course of your everyday browsing is really quite remarkable.
What do you mean when you say information collected about me? In other words, there are people who run a business, make a point of finding out that David Berner likes certain books, or watches certain movies, or uses certain pharmaceuticals.
Absolutely. This sort of information is incredibly valuable, actually, if you're a company that sells those books or sells those pharmaceuticals. I'll give you an example from my own life. Just a couple of months ago, I just went and bought a little external hard drive for my laptop computer. Pretty basic purchase. I did some research online, finds out which are the most highly regarded brands. And for the next several weeks afterwards, I'm getting trailed around the internet with ads for external hard drives. That's simply because my information would have been collected when I was Googling for that. It all goes into a database and then gets fed back.
Somebody is paying for that, though.
Absolutely.
Somebody is paying. Let's say you bought it from, I don't know who you bought it from, it doesn't matter, but let's say it's Future Shop. You bought it online from Future Shop, and somebody's paying Future Shop to access their customer information.
I think in some cases, I don't know this specifically with regard to Future Shop. I do know that if you Google while being logged into your Gmail account, which how many of us have Google accounts now, that kind of information can get tracked, and then it'll then appear in, say, the Google ads that you often find on websites nowadays. So it gets fed back to you in the form of advertisements, often for something that you may have already purchased.
Some of these things may just be mildly intrusive or annoying, but let's go to some more fundamental rights. Let's flip that coin over. Now we have a decision from the Supreme Court in America that echoes a similar decision that we made here in Canada about how much authority police have to access your Android or whatever your toy is in your hand, and they stop you, you've been driving a little too fast or erratically, and they say, okay, what do you got going there?
Absolutely. We've had a pair of really historic Supreme Court decisions come down in the last few weeks, one in the US and one in Canada. In the US, the Supreme Court ruled there that police are no longer allowed to search your smartphone when they might arrest you for something completely different, or even if they haven't arrested you at all, people were getting their smartphones searched. And the Supreme Court basically said that this is because smartphones nowadays carry huge amounts of really revealing information.
A smartphone is no longer just some little toy, and it's no longer simply a phone. It is, in fact, a computer.
Absolutely, and on that computer we store our emails, we have our web browsing history,
our wife's birthday date,
credit cards, we have our work calendars often. We've got pretty much a really detailed picture of our everyday lives on there. I know I have on mine. I think most people with a smartphone are in the same position because it's just so convenient. So the Supreme Court ruled that no, that information, it's so revealing that it's got to be private. If the police or other law enforcement want to search that, they need to get a warrant.
I'm trying to think of why the police would want to know anything from anyone's smartphone if they stop them. The only scenario that comes to my imagination is if they stop someone driving and for some reason or other have reason to suspect this person might be a terrorist. I don't know why, but they suspect it for some reason. License plate, something. So they want to see, does he know 47 guys with the same last name who might belong to some clique or other?
The thing is, when they actually have a probable cause to suspect that somebody is up to wrongdoing, they can actually go and get a warrant to search your smartphone.
But they will argue that's takes too long. We'll lose the suspect.
Unfortunately, but it's simply, and in fact you can get warrants pretty fast,
Yes.
both in the US and here in Canada as well. It was the case though in the US that police were often accessing the smartphones of almost huge numbers of people, the vast majority of whom were law-abiding citizens that they just happened to
Wouldn't you feel peculiar if you go to your car in a Walmart and you've just bought some groceries or something, and a policeman, is suddenly harassing you about wanting to see what's on your smartphone? I mean, that would be so odd.
Absolutely, it's enormously intrusive.
Yeah.
I mean, people want the police to have the tools they need to investigate crime, but there are checks and balances that we need in any healthy democracy. And it's a very similar situation we've had here in Canada, where it looks like law enforcement obtained private information from over 785,000 Canadians without a warrant, in the vast majority of cases without a warrant, in just a 12-month period.
Do you know if CSIS here in Canada, or the CIA or the FBI or somebody, or Homeland Security, do you know if any of those agencies argued against these decisions?
I believe that the government was certainly arguing that it should have the right to access this information, and in fact they've been pushing forward a piece of legislation through Parliament called Bill C-13 that would effectively hugely enhance the government's capacity to get this private information about Canadians.
I want to get to that after. We're going to take a break in just a second, because that's a big subject. I want to tackle that when we come back. But just very quickly, I could just see a George Bush or someone, many people, arguing that, look, the only reason we've been able to stop the next World Trade Center disasters, because I guess they could rightfully claim they have stopped a few potential disasters, is because we had this ability.
They do claim that, but the thing is, they've got no proof. And in fact, the US government's own privacy agency did a really thorough investigation into all of this and found no evidence that a single terrorist plot or a single threat to national security was staved off by these kind of privacy invasions. So it looks like they're just collecting our personal information on a massive scale without it actually having any effect, any positive effect on keeping people more secure. And that's why so many people are really concerned about what's been going on.
So George Orwell and Aldous Huxley all those years ago were predicting that we would be looking at a screen for our stupeficated amusement, but the screen would actually, in fact, be watching us. And in a sense, we've got CCTV everywhere. Every walk downtown, hey, go in a store, in a bank, right?
Absolutely, yeah, and even just people's everyday internet browsing, just their everyday online lives, the thought of that kind of personal information being collected and stored in insecure government databases, I mean, you can see why people are so concerned. From now
on, the only thing I'll look at on the internet is pictures of little puppies. We'll take a little break. We'll be right back. Your chance to send us a note. DavidBerner.com is the site. We're always happy to hear from you. An opportunity for those folks who support us here to say hello on Shaw Community Television, Cable 4. Back with you in just a minute. Look out, somebody's watching you. This program has been made possible in part by the following sponsors. The Trial Lawyers Association of BC. The Vancouver Courier newspaper. My new book about addictions, All the Way Home. Building recovery that works. Not on this last trip to Europe, but the one I made about 3 years ago. I did something stupid and thoughtless and ended up getting a bill from my provider, my phone provider, for over $500 for roaming charges. And I phoned and pleaded stupidity. And they were actually very kind, and they cut it down to about $150. So that says something about how much these telephone companies are getting away with roaming. I made a note to myself, David Christopher, that roaming equals robbery.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. And these sky-high roaming fees have been one of the most common causes for complaint that Canadians have had with the big telecom companies here for many years. Really, Canadians are paying through the roof. Often you can just go away to the States for a weekend, and you can come back to a huge roaming.
And you build up $200 in roaming charges.
Oh, yeah.
Except that we are so peculiar here in BC. You don't have to go to the States. Go to Victoria. Because Victoria, the phones cut into Juan de Fuca. And you end up getting American roaming charges.
Yeah, of course. There's a whole area of Victoria, actually, where I find my phone switches over to the US network. I have a friend of mine who lives in Tsawwassen, down near the border here, and it's the same deal. And each time she has to go and negotiate with her phone company to get these charges cancelled. And it's just that the rates that Canadians are paying are absolutely ridiculous.
I encourage you to go back into the movie vault and watch the late James Coburn in a comedy spy movie called Our Man Flint. And it turns out that at the punchline of the movie, that the villain, who we never know who it is the phone company.
Well, that's all too true for many Canadian telecom customers. People are really fed up. People want much lower prices and much more choice in our telecom market.
Absolutely. So look, first of all, I should have asked you right off the top, tell us literally what is Open Media about, because you have a lot of concerns. But in general...
Oh, absolutely. We're a community-based organization. We're based here in Vancouver, and we work to safeguard the possibilities of the free and open internet. That means making sure that people can be private, keep their privacy online.
Yes.
It means making sure that people can actually access the internet, that it's affordable for people. We have far too many low-income people right across Canada who still do not have home internet access, simply because of the cost is so high. We pay some of the highest prices in the industrialized world for internet here in Canada. And we're also very keen to protect people's ability to express themselves freely online. We're very concerned about some of the pretty extreme copyright proposals coming through that are really being negotiated behind closed doors in deals like the Trans-Pacific Partnership. There are talks actually taking place in Ottawa this week on this deal, the TPP. And
an internet censorship plan.
It really
Why? What is it? I don't get it.
It's very extreme copyright rules. They're being pushed for by big media conglomerates in the United States. It's something that the US is trying to really force down the throats of the other 11 countries in the TPP. Unfortunately, the talks are taking place in near total secrecy. Citizens have been nearly completely excluded. It looks very much like they're going to try and finalize this deal and then try and present it as a fait accompli.
What is it that they would censor?
Oh, I mean, it could be something as simple as that, if you've ever gone away on holiday, you come back, you post a holiday video online. Maybe you've got a song playing in the background, and perhaps that song is copyrighted. People could be criminalized for these sort of small-scale infringements. Criminalized. Whole families could actually be kicked off the internet just for being accused of infringing copyright without any due process. So it'll actually have an enormous impact on the everyday lives of internet users, and we think it will really have a chilling effect on people's willingness to express themselves online, to share and collaborate with their friends and colleagues. It will really, really undermine a lot of what makes the internet so great.
That's interesting, because for my money, YouTube is an extraordinary phenomenon on which you can find almost anything. Many things of extraordinary rare beauty. It's amazing. I mean, of late, when I'm playing a few hands of solitaire, I'm watching Horowitz in Moscow, you know, an hour and 45 minutes of one of the great piano players of ever, playing some of the greatest music of ever, you know, and the guy was like in his 80s or something while he was doing this, and it's beautiful. But there's lots of craziness on YouTube. Why do I care? I don't care if people want to put craziness on YouTube. If there's lots of bad taste in the world.
Absolutely. I mean, YouTube is a real treasure trove, I guess, of brilliant content and not so brilliant content. Yeah. And the thing is, you've got the you're empowered to choose what you want to watch and choose not to watch what you. So
what do you say? What do you say to PTA groups or parent groups or family groups who say, look, there's pornography all over the internet? Yeah, yes. What do you say to them?
I think it's important. You know, there are plenty of tools out there that families can use, that they can kind of opt into.
There are lots of them.
Helps keep their children safe online. I mean, more than I could mention. Dozens and dozens of different options out there that people can use. And the trick is that choice needs to be made by the individual internet user. What we really want to avoid is a situation where you get these kind of mandatory internet censorship filters being put in place by the government. And this is happening in the UK right now. And there's a report just out this morning that the UK government has inadvertently managed to block 20% of all websites on the internet are being blocked through this filter that they claim is entirely intended just to protect children.
And those 20% are random.
It's ridiculous. There are LGBT advocacy and education sites that are getting blocked. There are sex education sites that are getting blocked. There are sites that have no. It's impossible to imagine why they could possibly.
Floral arrangements.
Yes. One of the most popular political blogs in the whole United Kingdom has gotten blocked by this filter. It's really ridiculous. And this is what happens when you go down the route of letting a heavy-handed government internet censors sort of impose this on every household in the country. And that's really what we want to avoid here in Canada. We want to make sure that families are empowered to make that choice for themselves.
Yeah. Now, look, you did a poll, or you had someone do a poll for you recently, showed a huge majority of Canadians are opposed to federal government Bill C-13, and I did my best to try to comprehend this, and I like to think I'm reasonably bright. I couldn't make head or tail of this thing. It's like 900 pages thick. What is it? What is Bill C-13?
It's a really reckless piece of legislation. I'd say one of the most extreme pieces of legislation that this government has introduced to Parliament. It's still going through the House of Commons at the moment. The government
has not yet been passed.
Not yet been passed. There's still a chance to stop it. It's basically an online spying bill. Peter MacKay, the Justice Minister, claims this is about tackling cyberbullying. Really, there's just a couple of pages at the start that does have.
It's about the criminal code. It's about 500 different subjects.
Yes, indeed.
Well, much more than cyberbullying.
Yeah, and I tell you, I remember when this bill was first published last fall, and we were talking with experts in Ottawa looking at this bill, and good heavens, yes, they seem to have thrown almost everything but the kitchen sink in there. It's really an attempt to expand the government's capacity and ability to spy on everyday Canadians, to collect our data, for law enforcement to have access to our private information without a warrant. The vast majority of Canadians, unsurprisingly, are hugely opposed to this bill. We've had over 40,000 Canadians speak out on our website at OPENMEDIA.CA.
Really?
40,000. We had this opinion poll come out, an independent
73% against.
73%. And the amazing thing is the Conservatives' own supporters are hugely against this bill by a ratio of 2.5 to 1. Over 60% of the Conservatives' own supporters are against this piece of legislation.
What does the government need to know about me or you that we wouldn't willingly tell them already?
That's absolutely the question that has got Canadians.
I mean, so much of my personal life is nobody's business, including especially the government. Like, get lost. I don't even like doing the census. I think the census is a stupid waste of time, but nevertheless, you can be thrown in jail if you don't answer the census. But the census is relatively benign.
And it's remarkable how this government actually changed the rules around the census, and they did that they claim,
yes,
out of concern for privacy. They've done this on the one hand, and yet on the other hand, they're pushing through this absolutely astounding spying bill that would make us all less secure when we go online. We had a piece of really good news a couple of weeks ago when the Canadian Supreme Court said that a lot of what the government is trying to do here is in fact unconstitutional. And this bill in its current form doesn't look like it's going to stand up in court. So it's really time for Peter MacKay, the Justice Minister, to listen to Canadians, to listen to his own supporters and withdraw this bill, withdraw the online spying components in this bill before Parliament resumes in September.
David Christopher, if in fact this bill were passed, would Open Media and in partnership with others immediately launch some sort of lawsuit or launch some action?
I think it's certainly one of a range of options we'd be looking at. I think Canadians simply won't let this online spying stand. I think it's pretty clear where the Supreme Court stands on this. It would be hugely irresponsible, of course, for Parliament to pass a bill where it's clear that it's unconstitutional. I mean, that's simply a huge waste of taxpayer money, if nothing else.
The worst thing that could happen is that it's sent to that place called, sober second judgment, the Senate, where hardly anybody's sober. Then it would be a disaster.
Well, it does have to actually go through the Senate. So if the House of Commons does pass this, I think Canadians will be looking to their senators for that sober second thought. It's desperately needed because there doesn't seem to be much of that on the part of the Conservative government in the House of Commons.
Keep up the good work. We need soldiers on the front of open speech.
Thank you so much for having me.
So thank you, everybody. That's it for this week. Next week, we are going to have a wonderful guest, but she's in her 90s, so she deferred. That's Eleanor Collins, jazz singer in Vancouver, but she was awarded the Order of Canada, so we salute her for that. So next week will be a surprise. Maybe I'll do a half hour of singing jazz songs for you. Good luck. Thanks for being with us here on Shaw Community Television, Cable 4. Good night.